Awesome. If you're watching this, thank you very much for joining. I'm Tyson Nagasaka with Portfolio Planning. I'm here with Vishall and with Mike Lloyd from HomeHappy Team. It's the concept that we wanted to do was have kind of like a water cooler talk conversation. And Vishal and I have tons of great conversations behind the scenes. When we loop Mike in, we have tons of great fun. We have great conversations, good insights. And what we find is the work from home audience, they miss out on the water cooler talk, some of the tips, tricks, and like the pitfalls, mistakes other people have made. You don't get to hear about that stuff. So we wanted to have like a fun 10 to 15 minute blast, once a week, hopefully once a week, and kind of talk about what's going on. And so before we hit record, Mike and I were just talking about like what happened in the stock market over the weekend, where it kind of blew up. And Japan raised rates, and it threw U.S. Treasuries off. And then Warren Buffett sold a bunch of Apple stock, and then everybody sold Apple stock. And kind of the theme to that conversation was, man, if you do things kind of the right way and you have a well-built portfolio, you should actually be planning on some disruption and negative returns, and it can't all be positive. And so there's a lot more to go with that, but I'll kind of leave the intro there as thanks, guys, for jumping in.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for having me here. It's fascinating because everybody wants to get things at the lowest and sell at the highest and have the perfect. There is no perfect. Life is messy, and uh, I think the key there, like you said, is having a good plan, being in a good position, but also being able to take advantage of opportunities when they arrive, but being able to identify them too. So. Uh, None of us are going to know exactly when one of those things happens. We don't know if it's going to crash next week or it's going to go up again. I mean, it's just a perfect example of life in general. And I think you know, it, getting caught up in the perfection of your plan is a crazy aim. And I think all of us from our different positions can see that if you've got a balanced plan and you've been thinking about this ahead of time, you're okay. You're going to take the punches and keep going. And I remember, I'm old, not like you young boys, but back in '88 when there was a huge crash, everybody said that's the end of the world and like stocks are done, and literally they passed that and went way beyond. So if you're into stock market, it's ups and downs. That's what it's fun about it. But in life in general, like trying to aim at perfection is impossible.
Yep,
Wise
exactly.
words. Wise words. I laugh when we say water cooler talk. Water cooler talk. I wonder if a lot of the work from home people even know what a water cooler is. Like we talk about, like no conversations happen at my sink. Like I don't know what you're talking about. Um, but yeah, I think it's so important. Like what Tyson was saying is oftentimes when we hear, I think actually, many times we have conversations with our clients, especially the initial meeting, we're like, all right, like, there's always a trigger point of what made you want to be motivated enough to go onto our Instagram, click the link in our bio, click book with me, scroll down, find a day that works. Like there's obviously a lot of motivation to do that. So we always ask like, what happened? And it's always the same kind of conversation. There's some kind of event that happens, like to your point about they had a perspective of perfection. Something happens and it blows up their world, and all of a sudden they have anxiety through the roof. And they're like, oh, my plan's not working. I read this book, I saw this post, and it's not working according to plan. And they don't have the infrastructure, I suppose, or the support network around them because I remember times when I was growing up, no one ever talked about money, ever. It was just one of those things. I don't know. No one ever told us not to talk about money. It's just not a natural thing. So no one ever talks about money. And the thing comes up all the time. People are like, oh, I wish, put yourself in rooms where people are having conversations like this and that. Easier said than done because those rooms don't really exist all that often. And, even though I'm a financial planner and, Tyson and I work together, when we see each other, we're really ever talking about money. It's a small part of what we talk about, our business or money, and then we just talk about random shit like what I have for coffee or my back hurts or I don't know where we're traveling to or golf and how I'm still horrible at golf. So we talk about all the other stuff, but we want to make a space that you and the audience can actually join in. So if you're working from home, you can tune in and this can be part of putting yourself in the room and have those conversations. Um, and hopefully it just kind of helps you learn. And it's funny, you're talking about '88. Like I remember in '08, or sorry, '09 when I graduated. I was ready to enter the workforce. Like, all right, sweet. And all I heard was doom and gloom. Like, oh, you thought you were gonna get a job? That's cute. Like the world's over. Like, nothing's happening. Like mortgage gone, career gone, jobs gone, economy gone. You're gonna be
Yeah.
the Great Depression, and we've heard it many times again. COVID, same thing. When COVID kicked off, everyone thought that everything was going to end. So there's ups and downs always, but the most important thing is you don't want to throw all your eggs in one basket. And people talk about diversified portfolio. I think we mentioned a couple times here. Um, yeah, you want to have a diversified portfolio, but people don't ever really know what that is. They're like, yeah, I got, instead of all my money in one stock, I have my money in five different stocks, but all five are in the same sector. So that's not really diversified. Time horizons, what do you need your money for? That's not really diversified. But you also want to diversify your money where you have a lot of your money for your savings account and not just throwing all your money into the market, because then you're really setting yourself up for crazy stress, and but it's not worth it to be stressed all the time. Like, it's what a shitty place to be where all your money is caught in the market. And if someone like Warren Buffett, who you have no connection to whatsoever, if he just decides for some reason that he wants to sell a bunch of his stocks, it throws your world out of control. It's just, that's not a good spot to be. So I think a lot of people talk about diversity and diversified portfolios, but they don't really actually know what it means. And no one really, and even I don't think we do a good job talking about it.
I think you got to even take it further. It's not just a diversified portfolio; it's diversified thinking.
Yeah.
It's it's you kind of have to live your life diversified in terms of understanding things and being able to make decisions and not going for like a home run every time. And sometimes just a base hit is enough. And even taking the energy to call you guys and get a plan together is smart thinking. And I think that part's so important, is just understanding that you don't. First of all, you don't understand everything. You got to learn. But the other big thing is understanding yourself. What's stressful to you? What bothers you? Because, like you were saying, I mean, you don't want to have a huge portfolio in the stock market if you're a stress guy and or girl, and it's going to make you stay up at night. That's just stupid. And there's other ways to do it that you don't have to be that. And mortgage is the same thing. I mean, some people, they want a 5-year fix. They don't want to think about it again, and at least for 4.5 years. There's other
Yep.
people who want to take a variable because they want the lowest possible. But understanding what person you are before you have that discussion would help a lot. And I think as you get older, you kind of start to learn that. But I think that's a part of this whole planning thing, is you got to understand you, and like, are you doing this because you want to have a nice retirement, or are you trying to get rich? Those are two different things. And
Yep.
are you prepared to do what it takes to get rich? Well, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, and right, and that's, so I mean, kind of asking yourself some questions first before you even start it is probably the best way to start.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I think that, yeah, there's very different levels to the thinking, and unfortunately, TikTok and Instagram and all of these like instant gratification like apps that we have, they make people feel like they should be living rich now, but they don't see what it's going to do later. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, we don't get a snapshot of what an old influencer looks like that has no money, that spent it all, and they're hundreds of
and
thousands
not
of
go on
dollars in
TikTok.
debt. Yeah, right. I mean, they're not on there. So, I want to add one thing to what you were talking about, and then I have a question. Um, so when Warren Buffett dumped like half of his Apple stock and stuff, if you're a DIY investor, most people don't have the discipline to sell a winner, because we don't know
Yeah,
why Warren Buffett did that. He might have reached his profit point that he was looking for. He's still retaining 50% of his holdings that were in Apple, which was his largest holding. But if you're a DIY investor and you're a big believer in Tesla or, Royal Bank, that's a boring Canadian stock that you probably should own. Um, Once you reach your profit point, how do you take profits off the table? Most people
yeah.
don't have the discipline to do that because they want to see it go to the moon.
There and forward.
and, and you don't realize the risk that you're leaving yourself open to, that it could tank and then you lose all your profits and then you never took profits off the table. So there's a strategy for that, and I think most people miss that. um
Mhm.
so I have a question for you guys, is something that I'd like to know is like, what are you guys' summertime hacks for rejuvenation and refreshment? Like, what do you guys do?
Golf.
Doesn't that cause you stress?
Once you give in to the fact that you suck, it's not so stressful.
I think
Mike, go ahead.
I like the idea of taking some time for yourself, whatever that is, golf or just, listening to music or reading a book. I mean, everybody has different stuff, but I think you do have to consciously sort of shut down for a little bit of time. Everybody's slightly different how much time that takes, but I think over my years, I think I definitely do those kind of days where I just don't do much and or focus on those fun things that you want to do and not you can't be thinking all the time. You got to shut your brain down sometimes and however that manifests itself in you is fine, but I'm not a big believer in the 80-hour work weeks with no time taken off or anything like that. I don't believe that works. I think you just burn yourself out.
Yeah,
100%. And it helps
I've
when you
seen
live
that.
in the beautiful Okanagan too, right? So this guy can just go outside and be right at a winery. So
Yeah.
that's also different.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing that I found is we read so much. We read emails, reports, investment statements, insurance stuff, legal stuff, and my reading comprehension really starts to like go down throughout the year. And if I don't catch myself for a couple of years, I find that it gets like kind of like it's really bad. So something I started doing is I'll take the summer and I only read fun books. I still read
Right.
emails and stuff, but I read fun books. So I'm reading all of the Jack Carr books this summer.
Nice.
And right, so he did Terminal List and all that stuff. And I find that taking that time to do something that amounts to nothing, like it doesn't add any value to my life. It's just fun to read. And then when I go back in like September, October, my reading comprehension, everything is like so much sharper, and I retain so much more stuff with less effort. And I went years without doing that, and I just felt like, no, I got to read like a self-improvement book. I got to read a business book. I got to read a leadership book, and I have all of them. But I found that I just really suffered. And then like we're inundated. I don't know. Vishal gets hundreds of emails a day. Mike, you probably get hundreds a day. And
Yeah.
you're just like reading them as fast as you can and maybe not sucking out all the value.
Yeah. No, that's
That's
true.
so true. That's so true. I think, yeah, sometimes you just get so burnt out and you feel like you're brain dead. You're just reading there, and I don't know if you guys are the same, but I'll catch myself halfway through the email. I'm like, I blacked out. I don't even remember anything I just read. So like you like gotta shake it off and start over again, which is tough. But I think time blocking is something that like I enjoy doing. And sometimes I get away from it, and but it really helps my productivity. Is you know work for a block of time, especially in the summer. It's so nice where we live. So you can work for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, get as much as you can, put your phone on do not disturb, and then have a timer on your phone. Once the timer goes off, cool, go outside. There's a couple lakes very, very close to us. So you just take your dog, go to the lake, go for a walk, go grab a coffee. I think that's important. But one thing that I want to adopt is we just came back from a Europe trip. And in Italy, it was crazy. The one thing my wife and I always just noticed is when you're walking by and everyone's at these coffee shops in Canada and North America, I suppose, everyone's just working. So if you go to coffee shops, you see everyone with their laptops, head down, working, studying, whatever it is. In Italy, it was the exact opposite. Everyone was sitting there, socializing, not a phone in sight, and just being present and absorbing everything. So that's one thing I want to adopt a lot more into life is just slowing down. And I had a conversation with one of my clients yesterday, and they just came back from Greece, and he said the same thing. He's like, man, they got to figure it out. They work
Yeah.
hard for like 4 hours, 3, 4 hours, and go hard for 3, 4 hours, and then just like relax, slow down, enjoy your life, and then you just add a lot more longevity and enjoyment onto the work. Because if yeah, as much as we read financial statements, it's not the highlight of my day. I don't wake up in the morning and like I can't wait to brew a coffee and just read these T2 generals documents and NOAs and tax returns and insurance policy reviews. It's not the highlight of my day. The highlight of my day is the conversations. Like I like uh, you know taking this information and making it simplified and having a conversation with our clients afterwards. But the reading part is not enjoyable. So you got to do the rest of the stuff for sure.
Yeah. One thing to add on to your piece about time blocking, I learned from a coach a long time ago. Um, you focus for 45 minutes, then take 10 or 15 minutes off, and then focus another 45 minutes. And like you said, shut your phone off, don't have any interruptions. It's amazing how much work you can get done in 45 minutes when you're just focused. They say when
Yeah.
you get interrupted, it takes you 15 minutes to get back to where you were. And yeah, why not work less time but more focused and get it done instead of randomly looking at emails and answering calls and never getting your work
Yeah.
done.
I'm definitely like that. It takes me a long time to get back into defocus. Like I get distracted easy, so it takes me a long time to get to defocus. But once I'm in defocus, it's like a drug. Like
Yeah.
you're just hammering through so much work and you love it, but then you get pulled out and you're damn, like now I gotta get back into it. The other thing that I don't like doing is I don't like um Tyson, you and I talked about this before. I forgot what the term was called, but I don't like bouncing around between a bunch of different tasks. So I don't like having a meeting with a client and then switching and doing admin work and then switching and reading financial docs and then switching having another meeting with a client. Like I think those are all very different skill sets, and you feel rusty when you jump back into a new thing. I try and line up my days where I'll do meeting heavy days. And my first meeting is generally not the greatest because you just your voice is all messed up. You're like trying to shake off the rust. So I usually try and do those with like existing clients or friends of mine, so I can kind of not feel bad about it. And then by the midday, you're well polished and you're good to go. And same thing to your point, Mike, about like admin days. If you're doing that, 40 minutes go crazy and then you just become really, really good and efficient. So what would take me like an hour and a half could take me 35, 40 minutes and I get the same work done because I'm just conditioned in that space.
Yeah.
And then these days we don't do anything.
Yeah.
Tyson, what about you? What's your go-to?
Um,
You read any
I,
books
I
then?
u- yeah, I used to have a lot of systems, and I'm kind of system light right now, where I don't have as much of that. And I understand what you're saying though, because yeah, you have a technical side brain where you want to get in and be the technician and do all the stuff, but then you also have like a personal like connection type of brain where I like the social aspect of our client meetings. I like talking to the clients. I really enjoy that part of it. And yeah, if you can structure blocks where you're just doing like a social day where you're reaching out to clients, maybe you're having coffees, you're doing your connection work that we do, a lot of connecting with, like our business partners, like Mike, where, we might do something and go for lunch or do whatever. Um, I like to have chunks where I do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I guess I'm kind of in the point in my career in my life where I'm not worried about being so organized because I've done it enough. I don't know if that's a cop out or a great reasoning. Um, but I'm not as structured.
I think that's part of, as we grow, we get to know ourselves better, right?
Mhm.
And it changes too. So um, early on, you probably needed that structure to get yourself where you are now, and now you don't feel you need it as much. And I think that's normal. But um, I think that that's part of life is getting to know yourself. That's one of the biggest things is when you're first out of high school or whatever, I mean, we're just young puppies, right? We're running around, we've got lots of things to do, but
Yeah,
life evolves, and we definitely evolve along with it. It's just getting to know what it is that is important to you, and that structure isn't as important, and I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Let's I'm just curious. Let's talk about mortgages because I know that's something that's on everyone's mind, and financial markets. We could talk about that as well. General rule of thumb, like I just had a conversation this morning. They're talking about like, hey, what's going on with the markets, whatever. I'm like, then you're good. Like there's volatility either way. Like if you're worried about volatility, you shouldn't have been in the market in the first place. And if you are looking to get into the market, you don't want to throw all your money at once. Dollar cost average, end of conversation. You're good. Just have a good balanced approach and you're fine. I have a quick question with mortgages and Mike, just give us a home happy rundown. By the way, congratulations! I thought you guys won an award in Kelowna for
Yeah,
best business.
yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean,
How did,
we're starting a downright cycle. That's where we're at, and so we're at the top of the mountain. We're starting to come down the other side. Um, for most of us, that's good news. I think that those that floated through in a variable the whole way, it's great news because you're starting to come down the other side. For those in fixed rates and coming due at some point, it's also good news because they're going to be entering a lower rate than they would have even 3 or 4 months ago or 6 months ago. So probably the only ones are the ones that took fixed rates 6 months ago. And we are reaching out to some of our clients that are in those situations and having chats with them. That's part of what we're doing with our systems is trying to be better at managing the mortgage after closing. So talking to them on a regular basis, keeping track of the numbers and whether it makes sense to pay the penalty and move to something else or going into a different product like a variable, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're entering a low rate cycle. I think it's really important that people have a plan as always, and understand, that they're on a downward trajectory for rates. I think it's going to continue down quite a bit. I think we're going to see at least 1.5 to 2%, because my feeling is we're in a recession right now. They hide it. All this immigration is hiding the numbers and making it feel like we're not in a recession. But I think most people on their normal street level understand that we're in a tough time, and we need these lower rates to get the economy going again. And so I think we're, as usual, the Bank of Canada generally is kind of behind. They're slow to respond. They're always late. We're going to see that again. I think, like the neutral, we're at 4%. What is it, 4.25 right now for the overnight rate, and the normal neutral position is 2.75. So most were predicting we're going to go there. I think we're going to go past and lower than that, because the economy is going to be in the negative. So
yeah, people are like, oh, I don't know if we're in a recession or not. I was like, look at your grocery bill. Like, life's tough right now, man. You go to Costco and you walk with like a $700 bill and with a bag of chips and like $1.50 hot dog. Like, what happened? It's crazy. So you talked about options for people that were in fixed. What if someone's watching this and they're in a fixed mortgage? Because I know the bank was calling me like crazy when they're like, oh, the interest rates go up, trigger point, and they kept calling. They're like, oh, now's a good time to get into fixed. I'm like, I'm good. Because me personally, I love variable. Like, obviously, that sounds funny and silly right now, but I think generally I'm a variable person, because you don't know what life is going to have in store, and I don't want to have to pay big penalties to the banks. And generally, if the economy is good, my rates will be, in line with that, and vice versa. So over the term, I think it balances out and it's fine, but I have flexibility. Uh, but I know that's not the same for everybody else. So they kept calling me, bothering me about fix. I know a lot of people just got locked in because the banks do a really good sales job. And a lot of people don't really understand. Again, they don't have the conversations. They don't have the space like we're providing right now to have the conversation, have the questions. So if you're someone that did do that, is it a blend and extend? Is that kind of like what the strategy would be there? Is it negotiating with your current bank to be like, hey, you guys kind of screwed me. What options are available? Like, what do they can even do if you locked into a fix a year and a half ago?
It's, first of all, blend and extends generally is a little bit like Vegas. It's the house wins. So the bank generally, they charge full posted on the blend usually, and that's how they win the game. So there's a reason banks always push 5-year fixed. Something like 80% of Canadians only last 38 months on average in a mortgage. So they're betting on you in less than 5 years wanting to change it. And that's why they make tons of money on their penalties. They use the posted rate to make it a huge amount. So in general, going to the bank to try and negotiate, they're going to just say, no, you pay the penalty, that's it. If you're going to pay the penalty, have somebody, and this is what we do, is we calculate out what is the penalty likely to be, how much are we going to save over time, and it's just a numbers calculation at that point. So if it's going to take you 14 months to recover that penalty, how do you feel about that, and where do you think things are going? Or, no, I'd rather have the safety, and so it's just a calculation discussion. But in general, 5-year fixed rate nowadays just doesn't give you much flexibility. And going into a low rate scenario, I mean, yes, rates are down and they're better than they were, but if it goes down another 2%, are you really going to feel good about paying 2% above market? I don't think so. Most people get pretty upset about that. So like you mentioned, variable generally has been king for the last 20 years. Most people win on a variable for a couple of reasons. First of all, the market, obviously we've had like you said, you came out in 2009 from school and things were down. And so other than the last 2 or 3 years, variable was the winner. The last 2 or 3 years, just like everything in life, things change, and it wasn't the winner for a while. And if you hit it just right, you might have got a 5-year fixed and lived through, which is great. But in general, what the 5-year or the variable does is it gives you, you're only ever going to pay a 3-month interest penalty to get out of it, and that's huge flexibility. Even changing to a different variable with a better discount at some point, you can still do that. The other huge point is that it's convertible. And that, to me, is the key safety feature that makes you want to take it and be safe. Like, you can take a variable right now, ride it down for 2 or 3 years, and then lock into a 5-year fixed rate at that point. And you win both sides. And now you're 7 or 8 years into your mortgage and you've paid the balance down a lot more. and the impact on higher rates down the road won't affect you as much. And so the bigger play is like the big mortgage plan. That's what we try to work with, is just like you guys. I mean, guessing the next 5 years is hard enough. Guessing 20 years is impossible. So trying to position people the best way for those 20 years, that's more important than just winning on a little bit better rate right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mic drop.
So
That's why you're the best in Kelowna, I guess, eh?
yeah. So Mike, in your experience with the market that you deal with, how often are people staying in their homes, and how often are they trading up or trading out to something else?
It's definitely, I mean, a high rate scenario stops that. That's part of what it does. Is it stops people from making those moves. Uh, on top of that, qualification rates since 2016, that rule came in, stopping a lot of people from being able to move. That's why, I mean, obviously in Vancouver, it's crazy price wise. So is Toronto, but and generally across Canada. But generally that kind of moved along with income and in the past, so you could still make those moves. It's sort of spiked in the last while, and that's more to do with demand, I think, than anything else. I mean, since Expo '86 and the world saw what Vancouver was, that's when prices really started going up. And ever since then, we've been fighting this sort of, we're in a great place, but you're gonna have to pay for it more. And so yes, in general, the answer to the question is people aren't moving the way they were.
Yep.
Certainly not like I'm going to buy a condo, now I'm going to buy a townhouse, now I'm going to buy a house, now I'm going to buy a bigger house. Like that chain doesn't happen the same way anymore, which we all understand why, but it's just not happening as much. But I mean, I'm hoping with the lower rate scenario that we're coming into, that will allow some people to start to make the moves. There's a lot of pent up demand. I think there's a lot of people who like to make those moves,
Yep.
but they aren't sure how to do that, and they're certainly not going to do it in a high rate scenario. That's for sure.
Yeah, very true.
I sort of, it's sad. I mean, we have clients who would, excuse me, normally, qualify for an A rate, and we've had to go to alternative rates, which are like 1% above or 2% above, because their ratios just don't work right now. Because of the qualification rates. Once this starts to come down a bit, they would be back into A. So that's kind of the world we're in right now. And that's why there's a lot of people on the sidelines waiting.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wild.
Crazy. I think we're a little bit over time, but if there's anything else we want to chat about, I think the good thing is every week's gonna be like, what's the topic of the week, like what's going on, and then we can just chat about it.
Yeah.
In summary, just have a plan. It sounds funny, it sounds simple, but that's like my biggest takeaway is just have a plan and just stick to your plan. That way, the ups and downs, because there's always stuff happening. Like if I'm gonna spitball off the top of my head, there was like COVID and the war in Ukraine, and then immigration influx, and then rate increases or rate drops, and then rate increases. It's now Warren Buffett selling his portfolio is crazy. There's always something happening that's everything's going up and down, crypto's up and down, stocks are up and down. But if you have a plan, your plan is good, and it's gonna keep all this in check, and you just keep following the path, and that's how you get ahead. The worst thing, and I think in life in general, the worst thing you can do is let your emotions control your attitude. And when you do that, you get yourself in a lot of trouble in a lot of different ways. So keep the emotion out of it, think logical, join our weekly show, hit us up with questions. It's just, align your actions with what you want. So if you want to improve, you want to get better, put yourself in spaces like this, have conversations with the people around you, but also be skeptical, because everyone talks about their wins. No one really talks about their losses. And I thought Tyson Battle was hilarious that, you never really see a grown up, aged out influencer who went broke. You'll never see them. They ain't influencing no more, right? So
that's right.
That would be hilarious. That would be, I think, a Netflix special that they should make, and everyone would tune in and join that. Like, influencers gone broke. That'd be unreal.
Follow Tom.
But yeah, is there anything else you guys want to jump on and chat about before we jump off?
No, it's great.
No, I think that's good.
Cool. All right, Tyson, it's all on you. Wrap it up. Send us out of here.
All right. Yeah. All right, Mike, thank you very much for hopping on today. I appreciate it. I always love when we get to chat. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll do this again next week. And I guess if you have questions, drop a comment below, and we'll ask whoever hops in next week.
Yeah. Have
That's
a great
it.
week,
All right.
guys.
Take care, guys.
All right, thank you.